Maldives cave diving tragedy. Five Italians, including mother and daughter, died during deep sea cave dive in Maldives. A tragic scuba diving expedition in the Maldives has claimed the lives of five Italian nationals, including a mother and daughter, after they became trapped inside a deep underwater cave during an exploration dive. Now let's dive deeper and uncover every hidden layer of this shocking story on our AI podcast.
Imagine being 164 feet below the surface of the Indian Ocean.
Yeah, with a solid, unforgiving ceiling of ancient reef rock right above your head.
Right. I mean, the pressure compressing your body at that depth, it's roughly 6 times what you feel sitting in your living room right now. Your margins for error are functionally zero.
Absolutely zero.
And then, totally without warning, the entire ocean current violently reverses. The environment you've literally dedicated your life to studying just entirely turns against you.
The physical reality of that space is terrifying. You know, you're operating in a zone where basic physics and human physiology are just stretched to their absolute limits.
Yeah,
And that's long before any emergency even begins.
exactly. Today, our mission is to unpack a deeply sobering, real-world event that unfolded in the Maldives. We're looking at a stack of reports covering the Vaavu Atoll deep cave diving tragedy.
Yeah, an incident that claimed the lives of 5 Italian divers and honestly left the international scientific community completely stunned.
We are going to map out the extreme compounding conditions that turned a highly calculated scientific mission into a fatal disaster. So, okay, let's unpack this.
To understand the sheer scale of this tragedy, I think we first have to strip away the assumptions people often make about diving accidents in, tropical locations.
Right, because the immediate thought is usually that a group of overzealous tourists push past their certification limit,
Right.
like on a vacation excursion just to get a photo.
Exactly, but the sources make it explicitly clear that this was the furthest thing from a recreational tour.
This was a dedicated scientific and diving expedition.
I mean, we are talking about elite professionals associated with the University of Genoa and various specialized marine research institutions.
The victims here, we have Monica Montefalcone, her daughter Giorgia Solmacal, Muriel Odenino, Federico Gualtieri, and Gianluca Benedetti.
What's fascinating here is, and obviously I mean that in a tragic sense, but what's fascinating is the sheer caliber of expertise they brought to the water. Monica Montefalcone wasn't just some experienced deep water diver. She was a widely respected marine scientist.
She was a heavy hitter in her field.
Oh, absolutely. Italian scientific institutions had recognized her with multiple prestigious awards for her contributions to studying and preserving fragile marine ecosystems. She was an absolute authority.
It's kind of like, it reminds me of astronauts going to space.
Yeah, that's a good comparison.
Like, they aren't just visiting. They're highly trained individuals pushing into a hostile frontier to bring knowledge back for the rest of us.
Exactly.
But, given Monica's expertise, I do understand the ocean is a fundamentally hostile frontier. But let me push back on the inevitability of this for a second.
Sure, go ahead.
We're talking about world-class researchers. They aren't going down in vintage scuba gear, They are equipped with highly specialized technical diving apparatuses, redundant air supplies, and rigorous safety protocols. So shouldn't that level of advanced technology and collective experience mitigate the physical toll of a dive like this? Like, what kind of environment could overwhelm such a seasoned professional?
Well, it mitigates predictable variables, certainly. I mean, technical gear allows humans to temporarily survive in an environment where we otherwise wouldn't last 3 minutes.
Yeah, obviously.
But technology can also create a dangerous illusion of invulnerability. At extreme depths, the gear itself introduces complex task loading.
Task loading.
Yeah, you're constantly monitoring gas mixtures, partial pressures, life support electronics. When the environment fundamentally shifts, say, an unexpected violent surge of water inside a confined space, that specialized equipment becomes incredibly difficult to manage.
Oh, wow.
You aren't just fighting the water, you're fighting the sheer mass and drag of your own life support systems in a vortex.
Which means we really need to clearly map out the actual topography of the trap they stepped into.
Yes, the geography is everything here.
Because the spatial geometry of the Vaavu Atoll site is critical to understanding how this escalated so quickly.
The numbers in the reports paint just a daunting picture. The cave system itself, well, just the entrance to it begins 50 meters below sea level.
That is 164 feet straight down the vertical face of the reef wall, just to reach the front door.
Exactly.
And the reports describe the cave itself as being 200 feet deep and 200 feet long, Let's clarify that geometry for anyone listening who's trying to visualize this.
Yeah, they aren't dropping another 200 feet vertically into the abyss.
Right. They swim 164 feet down, and then they penetrate 200 feet horizontally, like inward, deep into the structure of the rock.
And that lateral penetration changes everything about your survival. When you move horizontally into a cave, you lose your most basic emergency option.
A direct ascent to the surface.
Right. You have a solid ceiling above you. Even if a diver successfully navigates 200 feet backwards out of the dark cave network during an emergency, they were still 164 feet underwater.
Wait, if they're already 164 feet down and the cave goes another 200 feet inward, I mean, the physical toll on the human body must be immense. You can't just pull the ripcord and swim to the surface anyway, even outside the cave?
No, you absolutely can't, because of the physiology of deep diving. At 164 feet, your body has absorbed massive amounts of pressurized nitrogen into your tissues.
Oh, right, the bends.
Exactly. If you try to swim straight up, that nitrogen expands into bubbles in your bloodstream, triggering catastrophic, often fatal decompression sickness.
So to surface safely from that depth, you have to ascend incredibly slowly, right? Stopping for long periods at specific depths to let the gases vent from your body.
Yes, you are held hostage by your own physiology. You are completely committed to the dive plan no matter what is happening around you.
Wow.
And the Maldives National Defense Force, the MNDF, specifically described exploring this exact area as a very dangerous, high-risk operation.
Which explains why things got so bad so fast.
Right, because at 6 atmospheres of pressure, the air you breathe is incredibly dense. Your gas consumption rate skyrockets.
Like you just burn through it faster.
Exponentially faster. If your breathing rate increases because you're fighting a current or experiencing sudden panic, you can burn through your specialized gas supply in minutes compared to what would last you an hour just a few dozen feet higher up.
The timeline in the sources reveals that it wasn't just the geometry of the caves that trapped them, though. It was a devastating alignment of external forces.
The compounding factors were just brutal.
The group originally disappeared on Thursday. And here's where it gets really interesting. Well, tragic, really. The rescue didn't just fail because of the cave itself, but because of a perfect storm of external factors. The rescue efforts immediately ran into a wall of compounding hazards.
The MNDF rescue teams weren't just fighting the cave, they were fighting the entire ocean.
Yeah.
The reports detail 3 massive hurdles that completely paralyzed the recovery operations. You had dangerous diving conditions within the water column, incredibly strong underwater currents, and severe weather raging on the surface.
I mean, the idea that weather hundreds of feet above you can dictate your survival inside a rock tube is kind of counterintuitive. It feels like 164 feet down, you should be completely insulated from a surface rainstorm.
It does feel that way, but that's one of the most dangerous misconceptions about deep coastal diving. When massive surface swells and storm systems hit the atoll, that immense wave energy doesn't just stay on the surface.
It pushed it down.
It translates downward along the reef wall. Imagine a hypodermic needle drawing fluid back and forth.
Okay.
When a massive wave pushes against the reef, thousands of tons of water are forced violently into the narrow mouth of the cave.
Oh, man.
And seconds later, as the wave recedes, all that water is violently sucked back out.
Creating this massive, unpredictable push-pull vortex inside a 200-foot rock corridor.
Exactly. A diver caught inside that surge is just thrown against the rock walls. Visibility instantly drops to 0 because the churning water kicks up decades of silt and sediment from the cave floor.
So you're blind.
Blind, you can't see your instruments, you can't see the exit, and you are fighting currents so powerful they can literally rip the breathing regulator right out of your mouth.
That is terrifying.
Yeah.
And the outcome of those combined forces is just devastating. According to the reports, authorities have only been able to recover one body, which was found approximately 200 feet deep inside the cave network.
Yeah.
The remaining 4 victims are believed to still be trapped inside that 200-foot-long structure.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it explains how weather above the surface entirely dictates survival and rescue below it.
Right.
The MNDF had to bring in specialized technical divers and heavy support equipment just to attempt entry. I mean, these are the absolute best military and search and rescue divers in the region.
Yet even they were completely defeated by the elements. Because the severe surface weather forces those heaving, 15-foot swells.
Yes, and the dive support vessels on the surface are being violently pitched up and down.
Right, if you have a rescue diver tethered to a boat or trying to hold a decompression stop on a line attached to that boat, they're being violently yanked up and down in the water column.
It makes safe technical diving mechanically impossible. You just can't do it.
Which is why, by Friday, the severe weather forced a total suspension of the recovery operations.
The command structure had to pull everyone back, hoping conditions would break by Saturday to resume the search.
You can only imagine the sheer helplessness of those rescue crews.
Oh, absolutely.
They know the exact coordinates,
Oh.
they have the training, but the physical environment simply will not permit them to enter. It's a total standstill above the water.
And that agonizing standstill brings up a detail in the sources that is incredibly difficult to think about.
The ship.
Yes. While the rescue teams are waiting for the storm to pass, there's another group trapped in the exact same weather system. The expedition's main vessel, the Duke of York, is still anchored out there.
Yeah, and aboard that ship are around 20 other Italian nationals who were part of this scientific mission.
It is a profound psychological limbo. They're confined to a boat, physically trapped by the exact same weather that is preventing the recovery of their colleagues.
They can't participate in the rescue, and they can't leave.
Right. They are just enduring the elements, waiting for the ocean to calm down enough so they can simply sail back to the capital, Malay.
The sheer isolation of a marine expedition becomes terrifyingly clear in moments like this. When the weather turns, your connection to the outside world is just instantly severed.
It is. But while those 20 scientists and crew members are trapped in the storm, the diplomatic machinery is operating at maximum capacity behind the scenes.
Yeah, an incident involving 5 foreign nationals from a prominent European university instantly elevates this from a localized tragedy to an international crisis.
It requires highly delicate coordination.
Let's break down how the two governments are managing that fallout, because the logistics of international incident response are really complex here.
Well, on the Maldivian side, the response came from the highest levels. Presidential spokesperson Mohammed Hussein Sharif stepped forward to publicly offer the state's deepest condolences to Italy.
Which is crucial diplomatically.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
More importantly, he affirmed that the recovery mission remains a top operational priority for the Maldivian government. When a foreign nation entrusts its citizens to your waters, providing that high-level reassurance is essential.
And the Italian government is operating from multiple fronts as well, because Italy doesn't actually have a physical embassy located in the Maldives, which complicates the logistics, right?
Yes, the Italian embassy in Colombo, Sri Lanka, handles diplomatic relations for the region. They are currently the primary conduit, actively coordinating with Maldivian authorities on the ground.
And supporting the families.
Right. Simultaneously, they are tasked with the unimaginable job of supporting the families of the victims back in Italy, updating them on a suspended rescue mission occurring oceans away.
While concurrently, it was Italy's foreign ministry in Rome that officially confirmed the identities of Monica, Georgia, Muriel, Federico, and Gianluca.
It requires a massive synchronized effort across 3 different countries just to manage the flow of accurate information.
So what does this all mean? Beyond the immediate, unimaginable grief for the families and the trauma for the colleagues stranded on the Duke of York.
Well, the sources explicitly note that the global scientific and technical diving communities have been profoundly shaken by this event.
Right.
The shockwaves are directly tied to the caliber of the team. When a novice makes a fatal mistake, the diving community processes it by identifying the broken rule or the gap in training.
Like, oh, they went too deep too fast.
Exactly. It gives people a sense of control, a belief that if they follow the rules, they will be safe.
Yeah.
But when a team of highly credentialed marine researchers utilizing state-of-the-art technical equipment is overwhelmed by the environment, it shatters that illusion of control.
It's a stark reminder to every deep water researcher globally that the ocean operates on its own terms.
It doesn't care how many awards you've won, how many hours you've logged, or how advanced your rebreather is.
Yeah.
This raises an important question, and it is the exact puzzle that authorities and diving experts are trying to reconstruct right now in the ongoing investigation.
They're meticulously mapping the cascade of failures. Because in technical diving, fatalities are rarely the result of one single isolated mistake.
No, they are the result of a chain reaction.
A domino effect inside a confined space.
Did the massive surface swell suddenly inject a blinding vortex of silt into the 200-foot lateral corridor, causing the team to lose physical contact with their navigational guideline?
Or did the sheer physical exertion of fighting that sudden current cause a rapid depletion of their specialized breathing gas?
Right, or did the violent movement cause a critical piece of life support equipment to physically dislodge or fail at a depth where immediate repair is impossible?
Investigators literally have to piece together a narrative from an environment that actively destroys evidence.
It's an incredibly difficult task.
We are looking at a 164-foot vertical drop, a 200-foot horizontal penetration into the dark, punishing surge currents acting like a hydraulic trap, and a recovery mission brought to its knees by the weather above.
Which leaves us with a necessary provocative thought to ponder as human exploration continues. We know conclusively that our planet's most crucial, undiscovered, and fragile marine ecosystems are located in these highly inaccessible, extreme environments.
Right.
But if these spaces are so overwhelmingly volatile that even elite experts, armed with the best technology our species can engineer, cannot survive when the fluid dynamics turn against them, how must human-led conservation evolve in the future?
Are there hard physical boundaries in the deep ocean that human physiology is simply not meant to cross, regardless of our technological armor?
Will this tragedy force a fundamental reinvention of how we approach deep water research? Perhaps accelerating the shift toward remotely operated vehicles and autonomous drones, removing human vulnerability from the equation entirely.
It's a deeply complex question that the global scientific community will have to grapple with long after the storm over the Vaavu Atoll finally clears. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Keep seeking out knowledge, stay fiercely curious, and as you explore the complex systems of our world, always respect the immense, unforgiving power of the environments you step into. Take care of yourself.
Okay, one question for you. What exactly caused the 5 Italian divers to become trapped inside the deep underwater cave during the expedition in the Maldives? Don't forget to comment it. Thanks.